Hello, folks. Anthony Crane here with Pocket Coach. Let me start my 5-minute timer for the topic. And today's topic, we are going to be talking about threaded chat. So the previous video we did to this one is all about the fact that teams have to have a collaboration environment. And we described that there was 3 parts to that environment. Please go watch that video if you want to learn more. One of those 3 parts is that every Agile team works with threaded chat tools. So in this particular experiment, you will commit to adopting a threaded chat tool. We're going to create separate videos, one for using Microsoft Teams, which we love, one for using Slack, which is my second favorite, and we'll give you some tips and tricks. But for this particular experiment, we're going to give you the generic rules, regardless of what threaded chat tool you're using. So first off, the problem you're trying to solve. Email creates enormous amount of data duplication. You have everybody saving stuff to their own personal folder on their own email, and you have the same file over and over again. You get into version control problems, who has the master copy, yada, yada, yada. It also encourages silo thinking instead of shared thinking, collaborative thinking, which Agilists, we like to pair up in teams and whatnot, mobs. It offers poor context clues. An email comes in and it takes you a second to figure out what this email is about. Right? There's no context setting. And priority, it's hard to tell priority as well, unless they happen to use those priority flags, which I don't think most people really ever do. It's slow, often ignored. How many people do you know that never read email? I, by the way, never read email. I read email like once a year now, unless someone says, Anthony, I sent you an email. Can you please look at it? And I'm like, sure. And everyone knows to tell me or else I won't read their email. And you get lots of spam, stuff that you really don't care about. So this is a problem when it comes to being a high performing team. So hypothesis. The hypothesis is if we use threaded chat for all of our internal communications, we'll eliminate and trying to eliminate email. By the way, internal communications, I have plenty of clients who actually use Slack, and I'm on Slack. So we just connect our Slacks up and we communicate even there without email. But many clients don't have, a threaded chat. So for them, fine, email. So if we use threaded chat for internal instead of email, we will increase collaboration. We will increase collective ownership. We're going to get faster replies when we have questions. And we're going to decrease our data footprint because we won't have nearly as many of the same file everywhere. And we are going to decrease the amount of time people get interrupted because we're going to create a search-based culture where people learn to find stuff for themselves. Now, that's going to be enforced way more by your wiki experiment, which is one of the other 2 tools that Agilists need. But it actually already begins even just with the threaded chat tool because we learn to search for things we've talked about and files we've shared within those threaded chat tools. Okay. This experiment is typically 6 weeks, and you ask Pivot or Persevere every 2 weeks, is this threaded chat tool instead of email working for us? Okay, so typical outcomes. You should see decrease in communication delays. You should see an increase in self-service answer finding through the search-based culture. You should see a decrease in the time it takes to shift your context from one thought to another. All from the threaded chat tool. Now, by the way, there'll be some people who, when they first make this move, or after a while, they'll say, we have so many channels, Anthony, it's a mess. Like it's like not helping. Anybody who thinks there's too many channels has not yet figured out how to actually use threaded chat the right way. So we'll talk about that maybe in the second 5 minutes. Okay, finally, skill growth. So what do you got to do to get your skill levels in this? Now, all of our other videos, we talk about skill growth, and it's just one thing, but here notice that it has levels 0 through 5. There is a separate experiment called the skill growth game, and Pocket Coach, the whole point of it is an app to automate that skill growth game. And we rarely talk about it, but in the tooling level, we tend to articulate more specifically what it takes to get your 6 levels of growth. The other ones, it's always the same. You just have to practice enough times. In this case, you have to practice different parts of the tool, if you will. So to get level 0, you have done some sort of self-study in the tool, watched a video, whatever. So if you do Slack, if you do Microsoft Teams, whatever it is, you've done some videos. Level 1, you've begun to use your tool for some subset of your communication. So you get level 1 just because, hey, at least I'm trying. Level 2, you've actually read the working agreements around what it takes to commit to a tool, and you've decided to try it, to really commit to it. That's level 2. And so you're going to use chat before email. That's one of the agreements. You're going to learn how to use threads correctly. You're going to learn how to use notification settings correctly, and you're going to embrace the search-based culture. You understand those things, you're on your way. Level 3, you have mastered those working agreements, and you're helping others stick to them. And there's lots of great ways to do that. Level 4, you maybe are a member of the governance board for the tool, Slack governance board or MS Teams, and you're helping to set policy on how these tools are used. And finally, at level 5, you could be an admin of the tool. So there you have it. That is the threaded chat experiment. And the experiment is that you're going to try to use the threaded chat over email. You're going to commit to some working agreements, and you're going to see if it accelerates everything about how teams work together. Okay, so that's the first 5. I'm going to go ahead and reset. You can, so what's going to happen in the second 5? And if you're not used to these videos, the first 5 gives you everything you need. The second 5 is just a little bit deeper on 1 or 2 ideas if needed. In this case, all I'm going to do is tell you a little bit more about these working agreements, and it won't take me very long. So if you want to stick around, go for it. If it's pivot or persevere, if you're ready to pivot, we'll see you in the next video. Okay, so looking at these working agreements, we have, where'd it go? Where am I? Oh yeah, they're down here. Okay, so chat before email. So that working agreement says this: when you start your day, most people who are in an email-based culture, the first thing they do is they check their email. This commitment is simply, I'm going to check my email last. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my Slack or my MS Teams before I ever look at an email. When you commit to this, you start to realize you've been forwarding all your messages to your email. And now when you go to your email, you see them a second time and you're like, well, this is a waste. And you really quickly learn, I need to turn off email forwarding. So you turn it off because you already seen them before. So that's a great commitment. And I'm going to look at that. Now, in order for this to work, you're going to have to master notifications. Each tool handles them differently, but there's ways to prioritize notifications for things that where you're a core team member versus if you're just a stakeholder versus if it's just like a fun little kitty cat channel, right? So you need to learn how to use your notifications so that you can focus on those important channels. Then you can go check your email and then you can go do the stakeholder and fun channels, right? So you're going to need to learn all that. We'll cover that stuff when we go into our deeper dives. Oh, sorry about that. That is of all the recordings I've ever done, is the only one where I started coughing in the middle of recording, and I'm going to leave it in there. You guys can laugh at me. And I pause the timer for a minute here so I can catch up. Anyway, so we were talking about these working agreements, and we're talking about how important it is to check your email after you've checked your threaded tool and to use notifications so you can prioritize how you do that. So I have my own little working agreement that I use for myself. I'll share that with you when we go into the specific tools. But you'll see that I prioritize many of my things. Then I might look at email and then I might go back to my threaded tool. Okay, I'm going to resume the timer now and we will continue. So next thing is using threads. Different tools handle threads differently. I've been in WebEx Teams now, and I have some tips and tricks for WebEx Teams users as well. Like they just call it WebEx at this point. But whether it's WebEx, whether it's Slack, and whether it's Microsoft Teams, they all handle threads differently. I actually like Microsoft Teams handling of threads the best. They move the whole thread to the bottom. Slack I think has the worst thread management of all, and WebEx is somewhere in the middle. Anyway, the point is this though: you commit to using threads. So what happened is I think it's AOL messed everybody up. You're used to it just being a big chat room, and you just put your latest thought at the bottom. But the fact is that this is a business tool, and so you want to reply to an idea using a thread so that all that stuff stays together. It makes it a lot easier to review later in the future. Okay. So the next commitment is I'm going to get better at threads. And one of the things I like to do is if someone doesn't use a thread correctly as a coach, I'll be like, hey, that should have been a threaded reply. And little by little, they get like, oh, you got me again. And sometimes they get me too, by the way, which is a lot of fun. Okay. So that's the second one. Next, again, no matter which of these threaded chats you're using, the next one is notification setting. We talked about notification settings again, but know how to set those so that the teams where you're a core member, you get more notifications. Teams where you're a stakeholder, you get fewer notifications, and the teams where they're just fun, you get maybe no notifications. Furthermore, some of the tools require that you behave a certain way. If you want to talk to your stakeholders, you say at channel, right? Or at here, or whatever the vernacular is for that tool. But if you're going to talk to your core team, they should all have max alerts. So you don't have to say at channel or at here. If you're targeting the core team, you just post, and all the core team, they should be there all the time anyway, with settings wise. So you reserve the at here at channels when you want all your stakeholders to be aware of something. Okay. So at channel, we're starting our demo in an hour, right? That might be interesting. Okay. And then finally, the search culture is the final working agreement that you're going to commit to. And in this one, here's what you do. you make a commitment. I will search for 30 seconds before I interrupt somebody for a link that was sent to me prior. A lot of these tools have links in a special area, documents in a special area. Microsoft Teams is the best at this, but no matter what, you can search for a document or a link or anything, a picture, search for it for 30 seconds, 5 seconds even. If you don't find it, then by all means interrupt someone and say, hey, can you send me that link? This is going to be a much more powerful working agreement when you actually have the wiki tool in place, which is a different experiment, but it works also really well here. So search before you interrupt someone and you will increase value delivery without a doubt. So there you go. Hopefully that was an interesting experiment for you. We will do an MS Teams and a Slack one, as you can see here. I might do a WebEx one as well if I have, if I can find my assets for that. So see y'all soon. And thanks for enduring when I was coughing a bit there. Thanks.